Hello there, grade 5s. Welcome again to your natural science lesson. Hope you're well, and I hope you managed to successfully complete the activity that I posted for you yesterday, where you had to fill out those words on the mind map about reversible and irreversible changes. Many of them you should have known from your work in grade 4, but I hope that you learned some new words as well. So today we're going to start our lesson by refreshing our memory on some of those irreversible. Remember, those are those chemical changes, and reversible. Those are the physical reactions. And then we are going to move on to our work for today, in which we are going to study and learn about materials and which materials are naturally occurring and which are processed. So, I hope you're ready to do some learning with me today. So I'd like to take this opportunity, as always, just to remind you that our lovely hosts, WorksheetCloud, have got an email address for you specifically for grade 5. That's grade5@worksheetcloud.com, for you to send in any questions or examples of your work, or even just some lovely comments to say that you're loving, hopefully, your natural science lessons. So let's see what you can remember about irreversible and reversible changes from our lesson yesterday. Are rusting, burning and cooking examples of reversible or irreversible changes? Yes, of course they are irreversible, meaning that I cannot get back the original product that went in, or the reactant. Hopefully you remember those words. Are melting, freezing and evaporating irreversible or reversible changes? Yes, of course they're reversible. They're part of the water cycle, and anything that goes in a cycle must keep going round and round and round. True or false? Most reversible changes are physical changes. Yes, I said it a little while ago in the introduction to the lesson. It is true. Reversible changes are physical and irreversible are chemical. And lastly, well, no, actually I've got one more, but second to lastly, have a little look at the examples on your screen, and can you decide which show changes that are irreversible? You may want to take the time to pause your screen if this is going too quickly for you. Last opportunity. I'm going to count down 3, 2, 1. Right, let's go through. Frying an egg, is it irreversible? Yes, it is. I'm never going to get the liquid egg back once I have created the solid. Freezing water to make ice, well, we just went over that one. It is not irreversible. It is a physical change. Melting chocolate, again, is a physical change. Remember, it might not look exactly the same when I solidify it again, but it's still just chocolate. Oh, I shouldn't really say that. Just chocolate. There's no such thing as just chocolate. It's an essential in my life. Mixing vinegar and bicarb of soda, you saw that yesterday on my screen, is an irreversible, it's a chemical change. I've still got evidence on my floor of the bicarb and soda mixture. Dissolving salt in water. No, that is a physical change. Remember, I can evaporate off the water and I will get the salt left. Burning wood. Well, we burnt a match yesterday, so you should know that that is an example of an irreversible change. Making bread into toast. Well, of course that's irreversible. I won't be able to get the bread back. And water turning into steam. No, that's a physical change. That's evaporation. And I could condense the water and the steam to get back liquid water. So well done if you got most of those right. Now here, true or false, this is my last one for you. Beating an egg changes the consistency of the egg irreversibly, but the chemical composition of the egg will stay the same. True or false? Well, it is true. I haven't actually changed chemically the egg. I change it chemically if I cook it, but I have irreversibly changed the actual consistency of the egg. Okay, so there's just a little bit of an extension question for you on our work that we did yesterday. So now we're going to move on to learning a little bit more about how we can change chemically materials to process them into something that is useful for our everyday lives. And I've got some vocab, as always, that you need to learn or know. So, raw materials. This is an important term. Raw materials are materials that have not been processed in any way. They have come directly from our earth. Okay, so for example, coal or sand, and here's a picture of cotton. Okay, those are examples of raw materials. Slightly different is where we say a material is natural. So a natural material is something which has been taken directly from nature. So materials that have come from plants, animals, or the ground, but we have shaped or changed them in some ways. However, they've not been changed chemically, they've not been refined, and they've not been combined with other materials. So the wood is a raw material, but when I shape it and change it into these planks, it's still a natural material, but it's no longer raw. Okay, so a good example of this would be something like bamboo. I can take bamboo from the plant, cut it down, it's a raw material, but I leave it to dry, or I can shape it in a way, then it is still natural, but it has been altered slightly. Now, different from of those two is processed materials. Okay, so processed materials are raw materials that have been changed and refined by humans. We also use the words manufactured or man-made when we refer to these materials. So something like a concrete brick that has been changed, so it is a processed material. Or glass, a glass jar. The glass has come from sand that has been heated and blown. We say glass is blown, so it has been processed. Sand is the raw material. The processed is material that we get from sand is glass. With the concrete, we take limestone and water, etc., etc. Those are the raw materials, and we process them to make the brick. Okay, a good example of a processed material is paper. So paper is an example of processed material. It is made by turning the wood from trees. So the wood is the raw material. We take that, we turn it into a pulp, removing all the water and pressing it to the right thickness and allowing it to dry, and then we get paper. Now you can actually, if you're interested, you can make your own paper from recycling old bits of paper and newspaper that you find around your home. Have a little look, go onto a search engine or a YouTube or a video sharing site and have a little see, and maybe a nice it might be a nice project to do while you're stuck at home. So now I'm going to take the time to go through with you different materials for you to see. First of all, we'll start with the naturally occurring materials, and then we'll move on to the processed materials. And you, if you'd like to now, take the time to write each of these down, maybe in a column. Maybe you should have two columns, one saying natural and one saying processed, and you can write each of these down. So I'm going to start with the naturally occurring materials. So first up, we have wood. Wood obviously is used for many things in our everyday lives. We use it for burning. I've got a lovely wood burning fire that's lovely in the winter and throws out a lot of heat and warms up my entire living room. We use it sometimes to build houses. We have it made for benches in the garden, fences, and lots of other things. It isn't chemically processed, so it's a natural material. Wood comes from stems and roots of trees and the other woody plants, and obviously the main, we would say stem, but we would say obviously the trunk of a tree. Coal, the next naturally occurring material. It doesn't go through any chemical process once it is dug up from the ground, but it is shaped and, because we might get big lumps and you break it up. So it's a natural material. Coal is a black rock that is found underground, and it is burned to provide heat and or in our homes, or also it is burned in order to generate electricity in power stations. Now, we will actually learn a bit more about coal when we start looking at our energy and change unit. Maybe next week we'll probably start that. Cotton. Cotton is a soft, fluffy material. It grows around the seed of the cotton plant. There are no chemical processes that are used in making cotton, so it's a natural material. Now, this is obviously a picture of cotton in its raw form on the head of a plant of cotton, but then we take it and we spin it into yarn to make a soft, breathable fabric. So that is then taking it from raw to natural. Cotton is used in many clothes and furnishings, okay? Your parents, especially if you have skin allergies, they will look for cotton, a higher cotton count in your clothing. And you can see that if you look at the little label that often is in your clothes, how much of your clothing is made of cotton. Next, we have gold. Gold is obviously a metal. We've been looking at metals and non-metals. And it is found in nuggets that are within rocks. Okay, so that again is in its raw form. We do take it out, we will melt it down and shape it into rings and money and gold bars, as you can see on the picture there. Then it's still natural, but it has been melted and shaped. It is not chemically processed. So once again, it is a natural material. As I said, it's melted down to form jewelry. Some people even have gold teeth, and it's also used a lot in industry. Gold is used for investment. It is kept in bars and it's worth a lot of money. Maybe you might have seen Kruger Rands, those are gold, and South Africa is very blessed to have quite a large deposit of gold. And I think, I may be wrong here, the social science teachers could correct me, but I believe that that's where Johannesburg in history got its wealth from, known as the City of Gold. And remember, I don't think I've included them in this slideshow, but remember the other one that South Africa is famous for is its diamonds from Kimberley. Again, a raw diamond comes out, it will be shaped and is natural, but it hasn't been chemically changed in any way, so we don't say it's processed. Iron. Iron is a metal. We've looked at metals and we have looked at some iron objects. Maybe you might be able to tell me if it's a magnetic iron or not. Magnetic metal or not. There's lots of iron found in our Earth, and particularly in the Earth's core and crust. And again, when we get to doing the final unit, which is Earth and Beyond, and we look at the structure of Earth, you might even be back to school by then, and your teacher will do it, you'll learn about how much of our Earth is made of iron. Again, it's a natural material. It is used to make gates, buildings, tools, fireplaces, piping, and so much more. It's a very useful metal. Leather. Leather is a material that is made by tanning animal hides and skins, usually from cattle such as cows. It's not chemically processed, so we do class it as a natural material. It's used for shoes. Many of you might have leather school shoes, jackets or other clothing. Some of you might have upholstery, like in your car, leather seats in your car or leather armchairs in your lounge. And it's also used in industry because it's very tough and strong. Now, leather is also quite expensive in terms of clothing. And if you're a vegan, someone who doesn't believe in eating animal products at all, some vegans also don't wear any animal products and they won't wear leather either. Organic oils. So some oils are organic. They come from animals and vegetables. And they are, oil is a liquid, so it's not chemically processed. We class it as a natural material and it's used in cooking. So go and have a little look in your mum's cupboard and their larder, I don't know what you have at home, and you might find some vegetable oil or something like that, canola oil, maybe even some avocado oil. It is a natural organic oil. Sand. Sand is made from ground up rocks and minerals. Okay, so obviously there's the sand that you get at the beach, which has happened as the rocks have been worn away by the erosion and the tide. But we can also find sand in other areas. It's not chemically processed, so we say it is natural. But remember, you can use sand in other materials. So when we chemically process other materials, so as I said earlier, taking sand and heating it to melt it to be able to create glass. So glass is processed, whereas sand is not. And as I've said here, we use it in glass, but also concrete. So it has lots of other uses. You may even have a sand pit at home if you've got little brothers or sisters and they play in that. And my last example of a naturally occurring material would be chalk. I was trying to think of something that you see every day when you're at school, and many of you might have chalkboards in your classroom, and the chalk you use to write on the board or your teacher uses is a naturally occurring material. It's actually a soft white rock and it forms around the sea. It's not chemically processed, so again we call it natural, and we use it for drawing and writing, and also it can be used in some of your toothpaste products because it naturally whitens. And it's also used in sports. I was thinking about, you know, the Olympic athletes when they're doing the gymnasts, they often will chalk up their hands so that they don't get blisters when they are swinging from, I don't even know the hoops, I can't even know the name of that, or doing the pole vault or something like that. They'll use chalk on their hands. Also the weightlifters, when they're lifting weights, they'll also put chalk on their hands. So now you should have a pretty comprehensive list of all natural materials. And now we're going to flip over and look at some processed ones. Okay, so remember, these are materials that have come from natural sources. So they have all come from raw materials, but they have been processed and chemically changed in some way. Concrete. Okay, concrete is a mixture that we make from water, rock, which usually is limestone of some kind, sand and cement. Cement causes a chemical reaction which binds the rock and the sand and the water together. And because of that, we say that it's a man-made material, a manufactured or processed. Remember all those three words, they're synonyms for each other. They pretty much mean the same. And we use it, it's very important, obviously, in building. We use it for walls, for flooring, for statues, lots and lots of things. Glass. Glass obviously comes from silica, and that is from melting down sand and other materials, and they fuse them together. So it is used obviously with glasses. You may have some glass bottles in your house, for windows, lots of different things. It's a very important material. Nylon. So I spoke earlier about cotton being used in our clothing, but nylon is also used. Nylon is made from polymers which are chemically processed. It actually comes I think I may be wrong, but I think it actually starts from an oil. It's found a lot in sportswear and also in your toothbrushes. So if you've got a plastic toothbrush, the bristles will be nylon. Also, if you love playing soccer, which I'm sure you're missing right now, but the nets that you use, the goal nets, are often made from nylon as well. So maybe go, as I said, and have a little look in the label of your clothing, but also go and have a little look at the sports clothes you've got in your cupboard and see how much of that is made from nylon. Now, this was the example I had at the very beginning when we spoke about processed materials, paper. Obviously, as I said, it comes naturally from wood, but it goes through a mulching process and a flattening and a shaping process and comes out as paper. So we do say that it is a processed man-made material. There goes my paper aeroplane. Right. Rubber. Rubber is made from trees. I do think I said that in a previous lesson, that you have a rubber tree and we get a sap from it. But it goes through quite a chemical change when we are producing things like tires for your car, rubber gloves, You might have the soles of your shoes may be rubber, especially if you're wearing trainers or what do you guys call them? Tackies, I think, hey. Erasers in your classroom. That's why in the UK we actually call erasers rubbers. Toys such as rubber ducks and many, many, many more things. Now, some metals, as I said earlier, like iron, are naturally occurring, but others are processed. We actually combine it with a natural metal, with another naturally occurring material in order to form it. And a good example of that would be steel. So in steel, we take iron and we combine it with carbon to get steel. Steel is used for pans and utensils. You may have got stainless steel cutlery, aeroplanes, and many other things. And it's particularly important because it is resistant to rust. Whereas naturally occurring iron, without being combined with carbon, rusts quite easily. Plastics. So there are so many different types of plastics. I can't go through them all. In fact, I don't really know them all. But everything from Lego bricks to staplers to water bottles to rulers. In fact, if you looked around your room you're sitting in right now, I can probably guarantee that you would find plastics in our modern day environment more than you would find most other materials. So they are processed. They are chemically made from processing oil. And as I said, they're all around us. Most of your stationery you're using to complete this lesson will be made from plastics. There's also been a lot in the news recently. I'm sure you're aware about plastic pollution in our oceans and how we can help reduce plastic. My own school that I teach at has tried to go single-use plastic free, so there will be no single-use plastics allowed on campus. That is things like carrier bags or single-use drink bottles and things like that. And it's a good idea to get yourself more aware of plastics in your environment and how you can reduce your use of single-use plastics. In fact, I might even do my next lesson on that, just as a little added extra. And then a very, very unfamiliar material you probably haven't heard of before is something called rayon. Now, rayon is a chemically made processed material that we use, and we actually use wood to do it. But it isn't in the floors or in the desks that you would find it, not in furniture. It's actually more in clothing and furnishings. So we actually use it to make a form of fabric. So once again, it might be interesting for you to go and have a little look around your house and see how on the labels it will tell you what percentage of your clothing or what percentage of your furnishings have rayon in them. And you now know that that is made not from plastics like a nylon or a natural material like cotton, but it's actually made from wood. So if you've been making that summary table, as I said earlier, those 2 columns, you should have something that looks like this. So natural materials, we have wood, leather, oil, coal, cotton, iron, chalk, gold and sand. And as I said, you could add diamonds, you could add a number of things on there. Whereas processed, man-made, or if you said manufactured, that's also okay. Glass, nylon, rayon, paper, steel, polyesters. So that's your, your non-natural fabrics, rubber, concrete, and plastics. So here's some questions to test you now. Which of the following is chemically processed, manufactured, so there's that word, or natural? There we go, there they come. So I want to know which is chemically processed, which are man-made, and which are natural. So, is glass a natural material? No, remember it is not natural. It's silica or sand. Sand is natural, but it goes through a chemical change, a chemical process. That's why we did reversible and irreversible changes yesterday. Is rubber man-made? Yes, it is. It's a chemically processed material. Is coal man-made? No, it is a natural material. We dig it out of the earth. We may break it down a little, but then we use it exactly as it is. And lastly, is leather a natural material? Yes, well done. Remember, the raw material would be the animal hide. We then treat it and stretch it and tan it to make leather, but it's not been chemically changed. Well done if you got those right. So one last little activity to test if you've really got it in the bag today. I have here some items. Some we've done and some we haven't. I've thrown in a few that to try and test you. And I've got two tables, natural or manufactured. So you need to see if you can sort them into their right side of the table. Ice, silk, stone, paint, sponge, paper, plastic, wood, fur, glass, feather, sand, wool, and concrete. You can take some time if you wish to pause the video and then do that. Okay, I hope you paused because I'm going to go through them now. Right, ice. Yes, of course, ice is a natural material. I freeze water. Remember, that is a physical change, not a chemical change. It's reversible. No chemical changes. Silk. Yes, silk is a naturally occurring fabric. I actually get it from silkworms. I don't know if you know that, but the silkworms spin a thread and we collect those threads and we make the silk cloth from it. So remember, the raw material are the threads from the silkworm, but it's still natural when we make it into a woven fabric, okay, because it's not been changed chemically. There's no irreversible changes there. Right, stone. Yes, stone is natural. Paint. Well done if you said it's manufactured or processed. Paint is processed. Sponge. Sponge is a natural material. I hope you got that. You can get some sponges that, you know, if you went to Clicks or Dischem or somewhere like that, those ones are sometimes made from plastics. But sponge, this one, is from actually under the water. You get some sponge in coral reefs and things like that. Paper, we've gone through this a few times, so hopefully you put this in the right place. It is, of course, a processed material, manufactured, as is plastic. Wood, definitely naturally occurring. Fur, again, a naturally occurring one, very controversial. I don't know if any of you have got fur items to wear, but it is still a natural material. Glass, again, we've gone through this a few times. Manufactured. A feather. Of course it's natural. And you might sit there and think, well, what would I use feathers for? Well, you might have feather pillows in your house, duck down pillows. And they are filled with feathers, or back in the olden days, for lack of a better word, they used obviously them to write with. They were cut at the bottom and dipped in ink as a quill. Sand, again, we've done this a few times. This lesson is natural. Wool, yes, just the same as cotton. Wool comes from a plant, cotton comes from a plant, wool comes from an animal, excuse me, and is naturally occurring. We do obviously spin it in order to make it into clothing, but the raw material comes straight from animals. And concrete, yes, manufactured. Let's see if I can test you here. Where would steel and iron go if I had them in my pictures? Steel would be manufactured, because it's a combination of iron and carbon, and iron is natural. It goes under the naturals column. Right, well done. So I'm going to leave you now with a quick question. I want you to have a little look around the room you're in and at the objects that are there. And again, as I said, when we talk about materials, we're not talking about the object. The desk is the object. The material is wood or metal or plastic. And have a little think now of taking those objects and sorting them into which are natural and which are processed. So thank you so much for attending today's lesson. If I did the register, I would obviously mark you all as present. I've put an activity for you following today's lesson. It is about processed materials. If you don't know some of the answers because I've not covered them in this lesson, don't worry. The memo's there. You can test yourself and have a little look at the answers and see no one's taking it down for marks. Isn't that nice? No pressure on you. And I look forward to seeing you next week. I hope you have a beautiful long weekend. Another one. How lucky are you? 2 in the space of a week. And I shall see you again on Monday. Have a lovely one, grade 5s.